Narcissists withhold love like it's something that you have to earn. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. Not just love though, empathy, compassion, and apologies. Like, I swear they will take it to their grave withholding everything that they know that you need and deserve. Before we actually get into how to actually heal and thrive beyond everything that they withhold, let's just run through the things that they withhold that are just super critical, so important, and would change your whole dynamic with them if they were able to or had the capacity to do so. Thing first is emotional regulation. Their chaos becomes your normal. They withhold the ability to learn and grow. And so it seems like you're running in loops and circles with them. Whenever conflict arises, it's the same patterns that you see that they exhibit. Their inability to take a step back and to not let out their anger or their defensiveness or whatever wounds that they have that get stirred up or their own triggers. Their inability to handle that in a healthy way is the first thing that they withhold from you. It's like time after time, they just react the same way. Like, we all know their textbook definition. They just don't have the capacity to do so, but at the same time they do. We all do. We're all humans, and we all have the capacity to grow and learn if we want to. So at this point, it seems like a choice. It seems like they're just, they want to stay rigid in that structure of being emotionally immature and just letting you be the scapegoat for all of their dysfunction. And this is super unfortunate, when you time and time again you express your needs, you express, hey, this is not right, or express knowledge. For my example, I would just share knowledge like, hey, this is actually like, not healthy. Anything that you try to pass along to them, thinking that they would use that information or use the feedback of the pain they've caused you to grow and do better, they actually don't. And that's what they actually are withholding. Taking it into an even deeper level is they're withholding that from you because they're withholding that from themselves. They're blocking off their own evolution as a human. They're blocking off their own connections and closeness and depth that they can have with other people because they refuse to stay within that frame. The second thing that they withhold is empathy. And it's kind of crazy when I would just bring it up, like, hey, this is like, give me some empathy. Like, I would just call things out for what they were, and there were reactions and responses, and I'm like, that's just very cold. And it's like when you bring it up and you actually like call them out, it makes them even more mad and more stuck in the rigid nature. Like, I thought that telling them, hey, like, this is not it, would actually like light bulb, like, oh, okay, so that they would try to be better. But every time that I said anything about their ego being in the way or their lack of empathy or them withholding apologies, etc., empathy, they just doubled down on the dysfunction. They withhold empathy in even the most smallest minute ways to larger ways when they can clearly see that you're hurt or that they've hurt you. But still, it's like if they were to give you one glimpse, one fraction of empathy, then that would just crumble their entire nature, their entire being. Like, they've built a whole system around protecting themselves and making sure that they're set, making sure that their needs are met, making sure that they're soothed by letting it out on you, but also withholding everything that you need, and when you express that you need it, even more so. I'll actually never forget this one time when I was, I think, 18 or so, and me and the main narc got into a big like argument. And so I've been holding up built up tension for months of not saying anything and holding it in until we had a whole argument, and I was just crying. And like, that was the first time that I was truly vulnerable because I was holding it all in. I decided to gray wall them or stonewall them so they couldn't see how they were affecting me. But it got to a point where I just couldn't anymore, and I was crying and bawling and like just expressing myself. Like, it was a lot. And so you would think that like your own family, your own mother, for example, would see that you like that and be like, oh my god, she's not okay, let me go hug her or whatever. And the narc, after they saw me crying and everything, they let down just one tear, and the mother, their enabler, ran over to them and gave them a hug instead of soothing them. Well, I was here like just in so much pain, finally expressing all the pain, all my experience, and they just ignored it. And so that moment really showed me how much they withhold compassion. They see your pain, but they don't want to soothe it. They just withhold giving you anything that you need. And that led to me feeling like, oh, there's some deep core mother wounds that I am facing, because even as an adult now, even now, right, I'm not getting that basic soothing, secureness, love from a mother, bringing me from a sad place or anxious place, and helping me figure out how to come back to an equilibrium. And so this made me even think about how when I was a kid, in a big family system, how invisible I felt. And I just cry. I'm just so upset because I know that part of me deep down, when I was like a young kid, wasn't getting that basic needs met. When I was upset, I didn't have that secure parent to help teach me that, okay, you're upset right now, but let's soothe you, let's bring you back. Oh, just give me the love and attention that I need to bring me back to a space of equilibrium and balance. And then now, growing up and realizing that I was part of a Narc family cult, being a scapegoat, it was just so obvious, so blatant, how one tear from the Narc makes everyone run to their rescue, but me actually finally breaking down just was totally ignored and was totally just dismissed. And their love and their compassion and their empathy towards me and my emotions and my experience and my feelings was completely invalidated. And so this is the third thing that they invalidate, or that they withhold. So I saved the best for last because this one truly just is beyond me. Like I have no words for this one, except it's just crazy. The fourth thing that they withhold is apologies, which you would think, oh my god, like that's just the easiest thing to do. Like, oh my god. They withhold apologies like their life depends on it. And they'll twist facts, they'll deflect, they'll do anything, all to just avoid apologizing for something wrong. Even in like the most minuscule situations, for example, like accidentally doing something, instead of being like, oh, I apologize, my bad, I just can sense, like they just pause. Like it feels like a just major ego boost. Like I think they feel like they're getting knocked down like aura points or whatever by just apologizing. Like they have to like move their way around it. And then when it comes to bigger things that they do, which when it comes to emotional abuse, they don't consider that big things, like they'll consider physical abuse big, but with emotional abuse, it's very slick and internal, to where they don't actually see the effects or the bruises on your soul, on your body, on your emotional regulation system, on everything. They don't actually see the effects except you being upset, you crying, you expressing to them. And that's easily, like, they're just like, oh, like, they don't view it as the same way for them to apologize. Another thing that I noticed too is that their mind, when they need to apologize, their mind automatically goes to something that you did that may be similar to what they did, instead of thinking, oh, let me apologize for this. Like, for example, one person forgot to bring back something that wasn't theirs. So they forgot to bring it back to its proper spot. And instead of being like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll go get it, they were like, well, you left this the other day, you left this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, yeah, true, I didn't realize. Yeah, I'll make sure I'll get it right next time. But their initial response to me saying that about them was for them to call me out on something I did, which, to each their own. Like, some people have the capacity to take feedback, and we all have blind spots. I missed something, you told me I missed it, that's my fault. I'll do better and I'll apologize. But when it comes to them, they just can't do it, and it's so sad. Enough talking about them. Here, this is Aisha, by the way. Here we thrive beyond the abuse, and we're done focusing on the narcs, blah, 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 blah. We're done. And we're actually gonna focus on how to actually thrive and heal beyond it. So what does this actually do to you when they withhold all these things from you? It leaves you feeling numb. It leaves you with emotional hypervigilance, It leaves you feeling unworthy of true love and care, because you see it happen to other people, or you just see healthy examples of it on TV or whatever, but you're not getting that. And what I would say to that is that the true healing comes exactly the point when we stop waiting for them to change, when we stop waiting for them to stop withholding. That sounds kind of weird, but when you think about it, withholding is withholding. So holding is the main word. With is like, okay, what makes it the opposite. And so that kind of gives them the power by saying and noticing how they're withholding it. They have the power by not giving us what we need. So us automatically are in the negatives. And so how do we break free from this? How do we thrive and heal beyond this? Is by noticing, okay, sure they're withholding, but okay, that's them. How can we hold and give ourselves what they're withholding? How can we shift that dynamic, shift our perspective from, okay, this is how they are, but I still know I deserve better. I still will give myself better. I will still surround myself with people and places that will show me that better. The main way that I have been able to like heal myself whenever that they withhold these things is literally reparenting myself. And so I'm gonna explain how I do it so that you know how you can also do it, and you can also give yourself what you need from them that they're not giving you. Alright guys, I speak in tongues sometimes, just ignore it. So when it comes to reparenting yourself, it's a slippery slope, because there's also talk about how people or kids who are abused, they venture off into a fantasy world where they are getting the love that they deserve and want and desire. And in that fantasy world is where they kind of escape to when their reality isn't matching up with what their soul knows that they deserve. So this is why it's a slippery slope, but I think that if you're able to tap into this, but also be grounded in reality and understand that your reality is still unfortunately how it is, being the scapegoat, then I feel like this is super helpful and can be a game changer. So this method is how I've also kind of, while still being in close proximity with the narcs, been able to stand and feel and be in my own power and on my own safety. Because when situations would arise and they would, withhold love or compassion, I would then go back and, like, when I am ruminating over it, because as scapegoats we ruminate over it, like, how could they do that, like, oh my god, like, we just can't help it. And so instead of ruminating over how they just lacked or withheld, which ties into so much more of how, like, your nervous system and your programs in your brain will identify with that, I will ruminate on the reality that I wish happened. So for example, if I got into an argument with the narc and they withheld an apology, like they did something and they didn't apologize, and I'm sitting there arguing with them, explaining myself to them, explaining, oh my god, this is what happened, blah blah, and they're just like, well, no, this didn't happen, or I don't care, whatever. Instead of ruminating, being frustrated on that for so long, I would go to a safe space by myself, and I would just imagine them actually being healthy, and having the self-awareness and the compassion, and being like, hey, yeah, this might have been a mistake, but I didn't realize how it affected you, I'm sorry, and having a conversation back and forth. And I think when we get sucked into their dysfunction, it's so hard to, like, realize that this is not normal. It's so hard to train your body and your mind and your subconscious that this is not normal, unless you go back in and consciously give it an alternative of, oh, okay, this is how it could have been, and this is what I deserve. And in a way that's reparenting yourself, but also just showing yourself, that there is better, that people will treat you better, or, in the family scapegoat narcissist dynamic. This video is getting too long, but essentially, when they withhold love, compassion, empathy, or apologies, you still have the power to go back and give yourself all that they withheld. And so basically that's my point. And I hope that this helps you guys, and that this gives you a different idea or a different alternative. And yeah, I just want to share. So thank you for listening, and bye.